Crypto Caesar Capital. Hope you're well. It's the 7th of April, 2024, and we're going to have a look at Ethereum. Excuse me. There's a lot of bearish sentiment around Ethereum at the moment. This kind of thing happens pretty much every cycle. Quite similar last cycle. Nothing, in my view, to be bearish around Ethereum. It's all a bit silly, really. At the end of the day, Ethereum is still number 2 on CoinMarketCap. It has been for a considerable amount of time, many years, and I'm sure it probably will be for many years to come. So I'm not at all bearish around Ethereum. At the end of the day, 90% of the altcoins you find on CoinMarketCap are built on the Ethereum network. As I said, it's number 2. It probably will continue to be number 2. And even BlackRock are bullish on Ethereum and are going to have filed with the SEC for the use of an asset around or a chain around Ethereum. So, really, there's absolutely no reason to be bearish around Ethereum. As I said at the beginning, this kind of thing happens every cycle, really, around Ethereum, and it's nothing new to me. At the end of the day, I don't think that Ethereum needs an ETF really to get to where it's probably going. If it gets an ETF, then that's great, but I really don't think that Ethereum needs that ETF to push it further to the upside. If Bitcoin continues to trend to the upside, which I think it will in the coming months over this year, then Ethereum will follow suit, and we'll look at Ethereum Bitcoin in a moment because that's a completely misunderstood chart by Bitcoin maxis anyway. So this is Ethereum on the monthly. As you can see, Ethereum is following a very, very similar structure as to the last cycle, very, very similar indeed. And we are pretty much where we should be in the cycle. In fact, we're a little bit ahead of time, and that's because of Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, Ethereum is trading now at $3,388 and change, and it's looking pretty bullish. This pattern is very similar to the last or the previous cycle's pattern. And as you can see, if you measured the depth of this cup on the last cycle and then put it to the top of this, the top of the neckline or the top of this cup, then you'll see it reached its target of around 5K. And it would not surprise me at all if Ethereum meets the target that we can see here, which again is the measurement of the depth of this cup, which will take it to around about 12K. I don't think that's a particularly really heavily bullish target. I think that Ethereum potentially could go higher. If there's an ETF, it probably will go much higher. But I think that it's reasonable to assume if Bitcoin continues to trend to the upside and we're in a bull market, that Ethereum will meet that target of about $12,282 or thereabouts. There are higher targets. It could go higher, but I think that that is a reasonable conservative target for Ethereum this cycle. So that's Ethereum on the US dollar pair. This is Ethereum on the Bitcoin pair. A lot of maxis will look at this and use this as a bearish chart, but it's just ridiculous, really, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin dominance is still flat and trending up. And that's the reason why any pairing to Bitcoin is going to be coming down somewhat. 90% of them will kind of look like this. They'll look a little bit weak, but at the end of the day, I think that it's kind of bottoming out here. Maybe it might go a little bit lower, but you've got this clear area of support, which I think it will hold. It could go a little bit lower. If Bitcoin starts to rip to the upside and Bitcoin dominance continues to move to the upside, then it's gonna come down. Ethereum versus Bitcoin, but that's just normal. That's what happens when Bitcoin goes up and dominance goes up or is flat. Then that's what happens to Bitcoin pairings, altcoin pairings with Bitcoin. They will either be flat or go down, and that's exactly what's happening here. And we'll look at Bitcoin dominance now as to why that's happening. But essentially, there's this clear area of support here. It might be that we don't even get that low. But at the end of the day, if Bitcoin is trending to the upside, then Ethereum will continue to trend to the upside on its US dollar pairing because it has a very strong US dollar pairing. But, you know, if Bitcoin dominance continues to trend to the upside, then I would suspect that Ethereum versus BTC will obviously come down a little bit, but that's what happens, and that's what these maxis don't understand. That they don't understand the way that the altcoin cycles work. They just look at Bitcoin and look at anything else. At the end of the day, whilst I'm extremely bullish on Bitcoin and I accept Bitcoin is king, I'm here to try and maximize my profits and therefore take riskier plays in altcoins, and looking and understanding Bitcoin dominance is key to that, because at the end of the day, that allows you to increase your position sizing with altcoins, and therefore at the end of the day, increasing your Bitcoin position, because really that's what it's all about. So at the end of the day, I think the Ethereum Bitcoin looks fine. Could be a little bit more to the downside here, but that really isn't going to affect the price of the US dollar price of Ethereum as long as Bitcoin continues to trend to the upside. So here you can see this is Bitcoin dominance. It's trending a little bit to the upside now. I've done lots of videos on Bitcoin dominance, so go back and at least watch the latest one. Understanding Bitcoin dominance really is key to understanding the market cycles of altcoins. At the end of the day, altcoins don't rip until Bitcoin dominance drops. Okay, and this is, you can see here, Bitcoin dominance is dropping. Back in 2016-17 cycle, Bitcoin dominance dropped. Bitcoin was ripping to the upside, altcoins ripped to the upside. Again, beginning of the alt season back in 2020, Bitcoin dominance drops off a cliff. The altcoins rip hard to the upside. So we can see here now, can't we, that essentially the chart is telling us that Bitcoin dominance is continuing to trend now to the upside. It may well get up here to the sort of 57, 58, maybe a little bit higher, 80% mark. But once we get there, I think there's clear resistance, and I think that's the point of the cycle where it's going to turn. And once you see Bitcoin dominance turning to the downside, then that is the sort of the door, or the open door, to the altcoin season starting. And at the end of the day, Ethereum and all the other altcoins aren't going to start to rip hard to the upside until Bitcoin dominance starts falling off a cliff. And that's not going to happen yet. I think it's going to happen very soon. But I think that there potentially is a little bit more to go on Bitcoin dominance. I've talked about this for over sort of about 18 months now, that, you know, I was calling Bitcoin dominance of 58% when it was all the way down here at 40%. So I still think that we could achieve 58%. Maybe we don't get that high. Maybe we go a little bit higher. But at the end of the day, the point is this: once Bitcoin dominance tops out and starts moving or trending downwards, that's when the altcoins start to rip. Now, and of course, that's when Ethereum is going to start to rip, because Ethereum is an altcoin. Okay. So let's just, there's another good point as well, actually. So I think it's important to understand the sort of the cycles of things, okay? Because I think where we are now in the cycle with regard to Bitcoin versus Ethereum is about right, okay? And if we go back, let's have a look at a better chart. Here we go. If we go back in time, let's put it on the weekly. So in the last cycle, okay, this was the all-time high in 2017. So let's map that out. Let's plot that in, okay? So Bitcoin, and let's put it on a daily in a moment, but this was the point where Bitcoin in the last cycle started to breach its all-time high, okay? Now, that was around about sort of, let's have a look at it on the daily. It was about, it was in sort of December, wasn't it, 2020? I remember I was on a flight to Istanbul at the time, And by the time I got to Istanbul, Bitcoin had breached its previous all-time high. Yeah, so yeah, around about the 16th of December 20, it started to make this parabolic move to the upside. It began the mania phase of the cycle. Now let's have a look at Ethereum on the weekly first. So this was Ethereum's previous all-time high. So Ethereum's previous all-time high back in 2018 was, about $1,300 or so. But Ethereum didn't start to breach that all-time high until about 1st of February. Okay, you can see here that candle that starts to pierce up through the previous all-time high. That was the 1st of February. So my point is this. On the 1st of February, Bitcoin on the 1st of February was, let's have a look, trading at the Bitcoin was trading at 32 K or so around about the point of the 1st of February. So on the 1st of February, Bitcoin, so on the 1st of February was the day that Ethereum breached its previous all-time high and started to move to the upside in a parabolic fashion. So on the 1st of February, Bitcoin was in fact 65% above its previous all-time high before Ethereum, here we are, on the 1st of February, its previous all-time high. So 1st of February here, when it started to breach its all-time high. So on the 1st of February, Ethereum started to breach its previous all-time high and go on this big move to the upside. But Bitcoin was 65% above its previous all-time high. So Ethereum was lagging a little bit, and that's exactly where Bitcoin dominance started really start to fall off a cliff. You can see here towards the beginning of February, that's when end of January, beginning of February, Bitcoin dominance started to fail and go down, and that's the point of which Ethereum started to move to the upside. So my point is this, is that we are exactly where we should be in the cycle for Ethereum, a little bit ahead because of Bitcoin. The Ethereum Bitcoin chart looks absolutely normal and as it should do in such a scenario. Bitcoin dominance looks absolutely normal as it should do in this part of the cycle. So there's absolutely no reason to be bearish on Ethereum. It just seems to be a bit of a ridiculous argument, really. But this kind of thing happens every cycle. When Bitcoin dominance starts to drop, and I think that that's probably going to happen when Bitcoin starts trending or trading around about the sort of 80 plus K, 80 to 100K mark, that's the point where I think Bitcoin dominance is going to start to drop or top out and then drop. And that's when the altcoins are going to start to really move. And that's when the Bitcoin maxis tail will go between their legs and they'll be quiet because that's exactly what happens every cycle. Okay. So absolutely nothing to worry about. When we get to 80K, I don't know. I've done a video on this the other day. We're either going to have a left translated cycle or a right translated cycle. We're either going to follow the 4-year cycle or we're not. It looks like potentially we could be not following the 4-year cycle and going parabolic pretty soon. But I think we'll know the answer to that question really by sort of the beginning of May, 4 to 6 weeks time. I think we'll know the answer to that question. Either we're going to consolidate for a long period of time, or Bitcoin's just going to start ripping to the upside. And if Bitcoin starts ripping to the upside in the next month or two, gets to 80, 100K, that's the point where I would say that Bitcoin dominance will start to drop, and that is when the altcoins will start to move. So conclusion is everything looks fine. Everything looks normal. Ethereum is still number two. I think Ethereum will continue to still be number two for a long time coming. If you want to join the VIP group and learn more about crypto, more about trading, more about investing, more about risk management, try to protect your capital and actually come out of this cycle alive, then please send me or send the group an email on through our website, or indeed just reach out to me on Twitter. It's $4.99 for a full premium service membership for a full year. It's very competitive given what you get from the group. Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for listening, and I shall speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.